Florida Governor Ron DeSantis blasted Apple for allegedly threatening to take Twitter off of the App Store. He went a step further and said that Congress should take action if, in fact, Apple goes through with this alleged threat. Here's DeSantis speaking at a press conference on Tuesday.
When you also hear reports that Apple is threatening to remove Twitter from the App Store because Elon Musk is actually opening it up for free speech and is restoring a lot of accounts that were unfairly and illegitimately suspended for putting out accurate information about COVID. That's like one of the main things that's being reinstated. So many things these experts were wrong at, and you had people on Twitter that were calling that out. And Twitter, the old regime in Twitter, their response was to try to just suffocate the dissent. And Elon Musk knows that's not a winning formula, and so he's providing free speech. And so if Apple responds to that by nuking them from the App Store, I think that would be a huge, huge mistake, and it would be a really raw exercise of monopolistic power that I think would merit a response from the United States Congress.
DeSantis' comments come after Elon Musk claimed on Monday that Apple allegedly made the threat. The tech giant is Twitter's biggest advertiser, and if true, Apple's move could deal a serious blow to the social media's revenue. Apple has yet to respond to Musk's comments.
Yeah, so to be clear, we don't know that Apple is contemplating doing this at all.
Right,
I suspect they're not. I can't imagine them actually taking Twitter out of the App Store. So a lot of this is much ado about nothing. Musk is mad about them leaving as an advertiser, which he has every right to be mad about, but they have every right to do, and it's not really a free speech issue because they are not obligated to advertise on the... I agree that kicking them out of the App Store would be a pretty severe move. I don't think they're going to do that. I also don't think it would necessarily call for the intervention of the federal government, unlike, I guess, many conservatives now who think the federal government should intervene in these kinds of things. And Ron DeSantis doesn't sound totally like he actually believes what he's saying there, so maybe he's just telling conservatives what they want to hear. But this does not, it would not benefit, I've been saying this long, it would not benefit, I don't see how it would help conservative speech online to give the federal government more power to punish these companies for speech, which was the whole problem in the first place. He's talking about COVID misinformation. The whole problem is messaging from the government telling them what they should and should not have on the platform. That was the problem.
Yep. More and more, we're seeing that it's not actually about liberty and freedom. It's one party or the other wanting to be the dictator in charge. And it's really dispiriting. Look, on top of not knowing whether or not Apple actually made this threat, Ron DeSantis characterized why the threat was made in a way that is also completely made up. So he basically says that not only do they want to kick Twitter out of the App Store, they want to do it because they don't, respect freedom. They don't care about speech, blah, blah, blah. There could be other reasons that we don't know about that could be a violation of policy. And again, I'm not saying, I agree with you that I don't think kicking them out of the App Store is commensurate with what's going on. It's a very serious thing to do given how there is a monopolistic issue here where there's very few ways to actually access the apps that are on the market. However, there were a lot of conclusions that were jumped through there. And I just want to be clear, there are terms and standards that are adherent to all of these things, and other companies that have been kicked off, some for good reasons and some for political reasons that I think are not appropriate. And we would also have to follow up and see if Apple were to make this decision, if they were doing so on a consistent basis or not.
Right. And there was, to be clear, some bad faith or some suspect kicking out of the App Store or Amazon's web hosting services, if we go back to the Parler case, which to me was not that, it wasn't that there was no reason to do it with Parler. It's that whatever they were complaining about with Parler, or the presence of violent extremist rhetoric, January 6th organizing type stuff, illicit, illegal, underage pornographic stuff, whatever they were accusing Parler of having, it does have and was violating those protocols, but you could also find that on Facebook. You could also find that on the dominant social media companies, and they were not thrown out of the App Store. So it was a little bit of it felt political. It did feel nakedly political.
Yeah. Also, are these people given an opportunity to cure the defect and come back on them? Those are all conversations that should be had.
Well, conservative Fox News host Tucker Carlson, he also criticized Apple, saying in protests secretive censorship and is, quote, it protects, secretive censorship and is, quote, a lapdog for the Chinese Communist Party. Here's a portion of his monologue on Tuesday.
As in China, social media in the United States are censored. That's not compatible with democracy. You can't have censorship in a democracy. A country that censors is not a democracy. Elon Musk, who's not from this country, knows that. He bought Twitter with the aim of stopping censorship and restoring free speech. He just said this: there's been a lot of censorship on Twitter, and we're going to find out what it is. Quote, "The Twitter files on free speech suppression soon to be published on Twitter itself. The public deserves to know what really happened." End quote. So why shouldn't we know that? Why shouldn't we know who is shutting down free speech in a country that claims to be a democracy? Well, everybody in power is panicked over this. Apple is threatening to remove Twitter from its App Store. So if Twitter no longer can get its app on the App Store, there's no more Twitter because you access Twitter through the app. So they're essentially threatening to shut down Twitter. Meanwhile, the White House and the media are trying to convince you that the problem is not China throwing people in concentration camps, suppressing free speech. The problem is Elon Musk, who is trying to restore free speech.
Yeah, so the element, I agree with the element of this that is criticism of our government's strong arming of social media companies on COVID and other subjects. Also, that little lovely image of Hunter Biden floating on the TV screen. On that issue, yes, and I would like to know more about how Twitter made that decision. We already know a lot about how Facebook made that decision, so I have a good sense of what happened, which is that they believed, based on constant reports from the FBI and national security officials and the mainstream media, that Russian disinformation was everywhere, and you're going to be responsible for the end of America as we know it unless you take more action against it. We are going to blame you for the fall of the U.S. unless you have a hair trigger for this stuff. So then they did. They had a hair trigger for it. That is my understanding of what happened. I think it's pretty close to what happened. Sure, there might be, we can find out specifically who said what to who. That would be interesting.
Yeah,
but,
it would be. It would be. Look, and again, I think that I agree that the magnitude of banning someone from the App Store is very, very significant, as I said. I don't know
Tucker's right
that
about that. It is significant.
It is significant. I don't know that it means the end of Twitter. I mean, Twitter doesn't disappear off of our screens because it's banned from the App Store. If you wanted to re-download it because you got a new phone or on a new laptop or something like that, that would be.
Well, you could access it, I guess, on your desktop
browser,
rather than on your phone.
People were joking that
might be better for my health.
Exactly. When there were some glitches happening in the last couple of weeks, people were saying if it stops working on the phones and it only is accessible through your computer, then many journalists and news folks will have a much better, lower therapy bills, shall we say.
Are you ever looking at Twitter on your desktop and go, sick of looking at the big Twitter? Let's see what the little Twitter is doing.
I have had that compulsive impulse. It's a problem. I'm not going to lie.
We're deranged. All right, more Rising right after this.